Saturday morning, about 11 a.m. West Coast time. Um, so yesterday or the day before, I did a video because Donald Trump had instructed Attorney General Pam Bondi to go to the court and ask for permission to release pertinent grand jury testimony from the Epstein investigation, Jeffrey Epstein investigation. That word pertinent is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sense because presumably it'll be up to Donald Trump and Pam Bondi to determine which grand jury testimony is pertinent. Do you think he's going to order her to release grand jury testimony that involves him? Well, now it's Saturday morning, and he has altered that demand of Pam Bondi and is demanding that she release all grand jury testimony from the Epstein investigation. So, a couple things. Grand jury testimony is confidential. You cannot release it publicly without permission of a judge. So that's what Pam Bondi presumably is doing right now. She's filing motions and drafting things and, blah, 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 blah. Second, a grand jury proceeding is not a trial. Typically, a defendant and their attorneys are not permitted to participate in grand jury proceedings. So there is no defense put on. Third, the purpose of grand jury testimony and evidence presented in a grand jury is to present just enough to sustain the indictment. It is by no means a complete representation of the evidence. It could only be 10 or 15% of the evidence that a prosecutor has that they present to a grand jury. Meaning that witnesses who testify during a grand jury proceeding are testifying typically in a very limited scope within that case. They typically are not offering every bit of evidence that they have in a case. The prosecutor is going to elicit just enough information from each witness to sustain the indictment, to uphold or affirm the indictment in that case. And so that's kind of the practicalities of this. And again, as I've said before, almost every single person who was involved in this case is still alive, except for Jeffrey Epstein and his most outspoken victim, Virginia Giuffre, who took her life earlier this year. So presumably, a lot of the grand jury testimony that's going to be released now, I guess, is going to be grand jury testimony from people who are still alive. And apart from Ghislaine Maxwell, people who are not incarcerated, people who are free to talk to reporters, talk to the press, talk to whoever they want about this case. And so this is not going to do anything to quiet this story, which is what Donald Trump seems so desperate to do. This is just going to flood. It's just going to flood the zone with more leads for reporters to follow up on. Because, like I said, it's like all of this grand jury testimony is going to be presumably made public for the first time. And presumably, this is grand jury testimony that was gathered in 2019, maybe or 2018, before Epstein was arrested for a second time by the feds in 2019. Yeah, Ghislaine Maxwell's still alive. She's just sitting in jail. I can't fathom the number of press requests she's been getting from reporters who would like to talk to her about all of this. This is very, very, very much not going to cause this story to die down at all. Like, not even a little bit. And every news cycle for 2 weeks now has been Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump. Every freaking news cycle. And I saw one of the MSNBC hosts on this morning teasing that there's going to be more reporting on the friendship between Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein in Monday's Wall Street Journal. They broke that story yesterday about or the night before last, I don't remember when it came out, about that stupid birthday card that was clearly not written by Donald Trump. He may have signed it, but he didn't write that thing. There's no way. He doesn't have that kind of command over the English language. Not by a long shot. So if new reporting keeps coming out, if new details about their friendship keep becoming public, that is just going to keep driving this news cycle. And I don't know how many witnesses testified to the grand jury in Epstein's second case. I know that in his first case, police had identified somewhere around 45 victims that they had interviewed. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, is it going to be 10 people? Is it going to be 100 people? I mean, that's going to keep the press busy on this story and keep this story alive for months. For months. Because there will be details in that grand jury testimony that there are going to be details that have never been made public before. There's going to be new information that will be made public for the first time. I mean, I guess I'm glad that Donald Trump is a dementia-riddled lunatic, because there's no strategic thinking at all in the White House right now from the outside looking in on this stuff. There's no strategic thinking whatsoever. I mean, it's just Donald Trump having a fucking temper tantrum of a guilty person, calling his own supporters idiots and weaklings for trying to learn more about Jeffrey Epstein and his client list when he campaigned. He campaigned on it. He campaigned on it. Every Republican candidate for Congress, for the Senate, for the House, for the White House over the next 3.5 years, every single one of them is going to get asked the question: if you're elected or if you're reelected, do you pledge to do all you can do to release the Epstein files? It's going to be part of the campaigns for all of these Republican candidates, especially the ones who just voted in the House to hide this stuff from the public. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. I don't get their approach.